would say when you're considering your career and you have a long-term condition, whether it's sickle cell or any other long-term medical condition, you really have to think hard about whether it's the right decision for you. Think about the practical restraints of your condition, whether it means that you can't work certain hours or work in certain environments. So for example, me in an office, sometimes I have issues with air conditioning, which can bring on sickle cell crises. Some of those issues are easily solved. Some of them are it's not as easy to kind of fix. So you really have to consider how much you want it and how much you're willing to sacrifice. Yeah, my piece of advice would be to think long and hard and be prepared to put the hard work in.
I would just advise people to not let it hold them back. It's easier said than done, I know, like I've tried, but you just have to keep going forward. Try and get like a really good support network around you, and if you need to get like advice or whatever, there are people out there. There's charities like Citizens Advice kind of will help you a lot as well when it comes to employment. I visited them after like I decided to leave my job, and they were really helpful.
I would always say it's important to, I guess, do your research. So do your research around people in the organisation or what the role entails itself, and then see if you're able to sort of come to that level when you do start the role. And I think it's also important in terms of research to understand things the legislation put in place for you and to protect you as a candidate with a disability. For example, there's things like double tick schemes where certain law firms or organisations simply fast track you straight to an interview if you have a disability. So having stuff like that, just understanding the organisation you're in and if there's anything that can actually help you.
I think it's just don't let it worry you. It's good to have concern, and I think preparation is the key. You know what you want. You know what this kind of career entails. Prepare yourself ahead of time. You know, nowadays we kind of underestimate resources that are available to us. Even things like just YouTube, there is vast amount of information available, more than like my days when I was younger. I think preparation is the key, and not overthinking it too much, because sometimes we kind of underestimate what we have to offer as well, and we worry so much that we kind of bring down our own dreams because we are so scared of, wanting to have the shadow of, because of sickle, I can't do this.
Carefully think about what you really want to do, and behind those decisions you make, ensure that you're making the right choices around your health. I would say to young people and other people who are navigating through their careers to think about what areas do I really want to build my career? How can I feel supported? Is it the right choice? Would I be physically exerted by this role? What are the challenges? And then make those decisions based on the sector where they want to obviously pursue a career. But at the same time, think about how they can stay well, because a career is just a part of our lives, isn't it? Our health is priority.
If you were looking to be a clinical pharmacist and you had sickle cell, my top tips would be to be honest with yourself and make sure you know your limits, but be prepared to push the boundaries. And even though the people around you that know you best might say, if you do this then this will happen, or if your doctors will say, it's a stressful job and the hours are long and we don't recommend you do it, you still have to do it and figure out for yourself if you can actually do it or not. Like, it's better not to have the regret.
Okay, in terms of appointments, I would say always be upfront with your manager or line manager. I think what employers would dislike most about disruption is when it's out of the blue. So if you tell them as soon as you get your appointment, okay, this is when I'm having to go into hospital, we can think of a time for me to make up the hours or something like that. And in terms of a crisis, I think it's best to tell them on the onset. So if it's the evening before you're due to go into work, send them a quick email or message, for example, iMessage, just to let them know that you're not able to come in. And when you're during the crisis, I think as much as it's time for you to sort of recover and that's time for you to sort of chill out, it's also important to update your manager maybe every 2 days on how the crisis is going and when you think you'll be able to recover. So that's my main advice, but I would also say there's no pressure, like it's you first.
So I would say that your health comes first. If you need to go to hospital, you need to go to hospital. Whether it is for like an inpatient thing or an outpatient thing, you need to be, that is the most important thing. Work always comes second in that respect. And if work don't understand that, then that's their problem, not yours. But just look after number one, I would say.
When it comes to taking time out of the office to attend regular outpatient appointments or just general GP appointments, I would say to be as upfront and open about it with your employer as possible, giving them the benefit of advance notice, putting reminders in their calendars so that everyone is aware that you'll be out of the office and for how long is key. That way you're just avoiding as creating as little disruption to the business as possible, which is always key to managers and to employers overall.
First of all, from day one of being appointed, just say to your manager, your employer, I've got this condition and FYI, I am being seen by my consultant every quarter. Saying it from the onset just manages expectations. That's what I have experienced. And just being open that, there might be times as well, I might go into a crisis, it might be, a long period of time on a hospital bed. And people know that if that happens, well, June did say it from the onset that it would happen.
Having a conversation with your manager or with your employer about sickle cell or any long-term condition can be difficult, and it's normal to have anxieties and concerns about their possible reaction. But I would say to be confident and know that this is a condition that isn't going anywhere. So you really have to own it and be prepared to have those conversations. And often you'll find that your employer is actually grateful for you to come forward and have those conversations, and there's nothing to fear.
I think it's always worth having that chat, because your manager doesn't know how you feel unless you tell them. So honesty is always the best policy. Go and have that chat, and they might be able to do something to help you. If you're struggling or anything like that, there might be something that they can do to make your work life a little bit easier. But if you don't talk to them, then there's nothing that they'll be able to do.
A lot of the time when I've approached an employer and told them that I've had sickle cell, they're actually not too confident about what sickle cell is, and I've had occasions where they just don't know what the condition is. And in those cases, it's up to me to explain to them what the condition is and to help them to understand what adjustments I'll need. Sickle cell affects every person in different ways, and the adjustments that I need might be different from the adjustments someone else with sickle cell might have. So the onus really is on me to educate an employer where that happens.
I'll simply just start by saying, it's a genetic blood disorder that affects me in X, Y, and Z, and then just go from there. And I think in an employment setting, I think it's very important not to give information that's not relevant to them. So don't say, well, it affects, my outside activities or anything like that, but keep it surrounding the role, so surrounding how it will affect you on the role, and go from there. I think it's very important to be constructive when going to such conversations, rather than creating fear or panic in the employer.
Well, if you're explaining sickle cell to your manager, I would always just start off with the basics. You can normally tell from the body language whether to carry on or not, because they'll normally let you know if they're interested. But I'd normally just, when I'm describing it, all I say is, so it's basically my blood is a different shape to yours, and when it's flowing through my body, it has a tendency to get stuck in my joints, for example, and then it struggles to flow to the rest of my body. And then I just explain that it causes a lack of oxygen and then the most excruciating pain. So I kind of just let them know how painful it can be and what what you need to make it easier. So if you've got a care plan, maybe give them a copy of your care plan so that if you're ever in trouble at work, then they know what they need to do, sort of thing, whether it's just call an ambulance or make sure you've taken whatever tablets are on there that you've got on you. They're able to help you then if they've got more of that information to hand.